Good evening and welcome to Primetime Russia this Wednesday, the 21st. I hope it is Wednesday. We've been having a little debate here. None of us know what day it is today, but it's okay.
It doesn't really bode well, does it? I just about remember my name, though. It is still Neil Harvey, thank goodness. Not changed it like Maria Sharapova did yesterday. We have plenty of news. Let's take a look. Next, a team of 4 speed bike riders from Austria have set a world record by cycling from Moscow to the far eastern city of Vladivostok. It took them 13 days, 2 hours and 59 minutes.
The bikers cycled a total of 9,208 kilometers, and I managed to talk to the organizers of the race, Alexander Schachner and Paul Bruck, and this is what they had to say. First, I want to find out from you, Paul. You organized all this. How difficult was it to make this happen?
I think the most difficult thing was to get convinced at the beginning, because I thought it was impossible what Andreas wanted. And then I spoke to friends like Alexander, and they all were enthusiastic about it. And then we started first the theoretical plan, and Andreas went by car last August from Moscow to Vladivostok to analyze the roads. And actually, this race would not have been possible before, because this long road, the Amur Trasse, was just finished 2011. And I was afraid of what is true about Russia and what is true about the Russians tell you about their own country.
And
I said, and that became to be a concept, we show the Russians their country. And actually, it appeared to become true that what we saw is not what we were told by the Russians about their country. It was beautiful. It was not dangerous at all. We never felt in danger. The roads were not as bad as everybody said before. They're crazy drivers, as you know, but all over it was what we expected, much nicer and much safer than anybody told us before.
What would you say was one of the hardest things from what you've heard from the cyclists themselves, even you were as well, of course, on the road? What was the hardest part of being on the road?
Well, being on the road or off the road, because the hardest part was actually the check-in in Vladivostok to fly back.
Yeah, what was that about? Can you tell us? Because I was surprised when I was talking to you last. I was saying, well, how are you planning to go back now? Surely you wouldn't be cycling back or taking a car. And then you said you were planning to take, was it a train, I believe, or a plane back?
No, the plane.
A plane back. How was that hard?
Well, it would have been easier to cycle back, actually, I guess.
Well, the bikes were checked. The bikes were actually booked, and they had their ticket number. And when I showed up at the check-in, they wanted to see Kvitancio, and I did not have a Kvitancio because the receipt we didn't get because it was paid by a sponsor. So we had to argue, and at the end of the day, we had to pay. That it was solved. But all the rest was smooth and easy. I mean, for the bikers, when you talk to them, I mean, they are so fit and they are so sportive and so well prepared that when we saw the terrible roads, and even with the great cars we had sometimes trouble to drive on the. It wasn't long in the total distance, but where it was bad, it was really bad. And they just said, well, it was nice to have a little bit change. Not always driving on nice roads is not fun. Yeah.
So you experienced the true Russian adventure, some would say. You've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. If there's one thing you could take away from this experience, what would you say it was?
Well, I would say it was it was more surprised than I was expecting in terms of beauty of the country. And this is, if you hear about Siberia, Siberia has an image to be ugly and cold. And what we saw from Siberia was beauty, fantastic agriculture, very nice countryside, so worth going there. And unbelievable dimensions. I mean, you drive, it doesn't end.
I've been living here in Russia since about 15 years, And I opened for myself Russia once more. I've been there. I crossed Russia on Trans-Siberian Railway 21 years ago. But anyway, crossing it on a car and with average speed of 30 kilometers per hour is something different. Especially the part from the Baikal Lake until Chita and a little bit further. This is fantastic.
A lot of people who came across this project, especially here in Russia, said Russia is not really well known for the cyclist nature in the country. We're just getting started, especially with Moscow in particular, and it will take time to spread across other regions. What have you noticed when you went on this journey as far as cyclists? Did you feel that drivers are not really aware of cyclists? The infrastructure, of course, in general is not so great, but for cyclists it must be even worse.
Well, for cyclists, I think it is quite difficult to drive in Russia because there is no infrastructure actually. We have seen some cyclists, even some who were crossing Russia on their own. But if you have to drive on the highways between the big cities like, I don't know, Yekaterinburg and Novosibirsk, where you have immense truck traffic, it is very dangerous to drive on bike. And we were lucky to have the Land Rovers with us, or to have our cars protecting the bikers, and to have police accompanying us for 2,000 to 3,000 kilometers. And this helped a lot. But so infrastructure is not really here in Russia for cyclists. And there are not so many cyclists so far. So this is, I think, this will develop, but this takes time.
Crazy idea. If I wanted to give it a try and say join you in Europe and take that drive, would that be possible?
I think
Can anyone do it?
I think we're gonna make a deal. just give us some time in advance and we'll do it.
We'll find a way.
We'll find a way.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And good luck, of course, in Europe.
Thank you. I have one more thing. I brought something for you, a so small present for your studio.
Oh.
This is a signed shirt from our bikers, just for Russia today.
Great. Let me give it a...
So this is
Thank you
for
very much. So
And
here we go.